Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Mango Publishing Heart Wisdom panel. I'm Sherry Reichert-Ballou, author of Say It Now, 33 Creative Ways to Say I Love You to the Most Important People in Your Life. And I am so excited to be seeing all of your beautiful faces today. And those of you who are here now, those of you who will be watching the replay, I think this is going to be an extraordinary conversation because we have Dr. Deanna Minich and Elise Marie Collins, both of them, we were just talking before we actually turned on the recording, their books, wait till you hear more about their books. I know Bree's going to be putting the links in, but they're just chock full of, spirituality and science and personal anecdotes and so much research. And I know, Dr. Minich, your book just was re-released, right, recently?
In February of this year, yes.
Yeah, so
and a bit of a makeover, so it looks different. The cover looks much more, I would say, colorful, and the content has also been updated. So yeah, it's great to see it out there.
I'm so excited, and we're just going to do two things before I have Deanna and Elise introduce themselves. One is I wanted to just read you a short quote that really caught my eye from Dr. Minich's book. And her book is Handbook for Quantum Healing. Ironically, despite technological advances in medicine, we aren't making ourselves healthier. Probably the best we are doing is extending our disabilities into a greater part of our lifespan. The real question is, how do we truly heal? And I loved that as sort of an introduction and a little teaser to our conversation when we talk about, true healing. And also, thank you. Deanna has offered to open up our circle. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you before we have the formal introductions.
All right. Thank you, Sherry. So yeah, Sherry had asked if I could guide us through an imagery exercise, which is very much in sync with the Quantum Healing book. And so I'm going to do this more intuitively, more impromptu, rather than read you one of my visualizations that I came up with. And I was feeling that it would be appropriate for this group to open up with a heart visualization. So first, to assume a comfortable position with your spine erect. I'm going to keep my eyes closed because that helps me to go within. So do whatever feels comfortable for you, but your spine is straight. Your feet are flat on the ground. Taking a nice deep breath in, deep into your belly. And letting go when it feels right. And I'd like for you to put your attention into your heart space. So into the middle of your chest. And if you can imagine this wonderful heart space like a lush emerald forest. So many of you really do connect with those images in nature. We know how healing nature can be. So imagine the most beautiful forest within your heart space. See the macro of the forest. See all of the many different kinds of trees that you might have in that space. And then look a little bit deeper, allow your inner gaze to go into one of the leaves on one of the trees within that heart space. And let your curiosity unfold. Look at the leaf, its intricacy, its vasculature, its web-like connections. And imagine those web-like connections within that leaf, extending now throughout the whole of your heart space, going throughout your heart and then into your arms and into your fingers. Imagine that your arms and your fingers have become extensions of that tree. You are growing, you are healing, you are reaching and embracing all that is healing for your mind, your body, and your spirit. And once you feel very connected into your arms, your hands, your heart space, I'd like you to take that tree and go deep into the lower part of your body, into your trunk, into your torso, into your legs, into your feet. And imagine that you become that tree. Allow yourself to anchor deep into your being, pulsing with the earth, really feeling that connection to the life force that we have in our physical world. Taking a nice deep breath in, pulling up some of that Gaia energy, and bringing it back up into the heart space. And then let's go up and out. So in the opposite direction, let's go up into the head area. Let's bring in some of the aspects of the tree, the leaves, the branches, the entire crown of that tree. Let's bring it up and out. Seeing all of those branches extending out, gathering wisdom, gathering the dream space, gathering anything that needs to come into your being for healing. And pulling that down into your heart space. And really feeling that connection of the heart with the lower part of the body, the rooted part, the grounded part, the earthy part, along with what is above the heart space, into the mind, into the celestial realms, bringing in a lot of that collective wisdom and joining that into the heart space. So with that, take a nice final deep breath in, allowing all of those different currents and vines and leaves and tendrils and roots to interconnect. Wiggling your toes and your fingers. And if your eyes are closed, opening your eyes.
Oh, that was beautiful. Thank you for that.
My pleasure. And part of my inspiration is all of you listening to what you were saying about nature. And also in front of me, I live in a forest. And so we live on 5 acres of cedar trees. And so in front of me, I have this window of all of these trees. So I can't help but get inspiration for the heart chakra through looking at trees and their life force and how we can bring that into our everyday. So thank you.
Yeah, I could feel the sun coming in, when you asked us to sort of reach up. And also, don't trees communicate with one another by their roots? So I was actually imagining all of us as these wonderful trees communicating during that.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, it was nice. It felt like us, So
Mhm.
thank you. That was very inspiring.
Thank you.
So welcome. I see we had Aiden joined us since we were doing our meditation. Welcome, Aiden. Oh, and Liz Marie. Hi, Liz Marie. So we're just about to do introductions. And Elise, why don't we start with you? I know you've been here before, but we're glad to have you back. But even so, will you sort of tell us anything that you want about your work, your book, Super Ager?
Yeah, I'm the author of Super Ager and Chakra Tonics. And Chakra Tonics is actually going to be coming out in July. And I added some visualizations and rituals and some new recipes. So excited about that. I am a yoga teacher, a gerontologist. And I just realized I know Thea from We Study with Judith. Yes, I didn't realize with the name. I was like, she looks familiar. Yes, yoga teacher. And I love to just keep the healing very simple, connecting with nature. So you can find out more about me, I'm sure, and all over the internet. Elise Marie Collins is what I go by.
Oh, thank you, Elise. Thank you. And Dr. Minich, hello, welcome. I think this is your first time with us on the Heart Wisdom panel.
This is my first time. It's really lovely to be here. So I am a scientist by training, but I've also done some of the things that Elise has done. Like I have gone on to study yoga and Reiki and energy medicine. And, one of the things I learned about science very quickly on was that it didn't provide all of the answers. that it was a method. It wasn't a hierarchical system to go by. That said, I do think that science and spirituality really do wind together very beautifully. And that's what I did in the Complete Handbook of Quantum Healing, is that I brought in the science using a lot of the research, as well as it being a reference guide for conditions between A to Z, everything from acne to yeast infection. So looking at things like nutrition, emotions and thoughts, and guided imagery. I have 7 different things for every condition. So that's really, even though my training has been in more biochemistry and medical science, I really do like to push the boundaries of those things, really look at, similar to Bruce Lipton and others, where, we start to look at the mind, we start to look at the influence of, why do we have a placebo effect? Why do we need a placebo in studies? Because the mind is so powerful. So hopefully, for those of you who have the book, or if you haven't had it, bought it yet, or have it on your shelf, I really do see it as a living, breathing way to connect with that science and spirit part of ourselves for healing.
I love that. And you almost touched on, but I'm going to ask you to go a little bit further. One of my first questions for both of you is, we all hear that expression, mind, body, spirit, mind, body, spirit, mind, body, spirit. And can you just say a little bit more, and then I'll have Elise also talk to that. Like, what about that mind, body, spirit? What do we need to know?
Well, I think it's a great catch-all phrase to encompass the whole of our being. I think we're a lot more than mind, body, spirit, though. We are our sense of our physical body, and our physical body is vast. I mean, we live our lifetimes in bodies that we seek to understand. And through our bodies, we learn, right? And so through our bodies, we experience emotions, we have thoughts, we may experience love, we speak our truth. What I think Elise and I both see is that the ancient chakra system provides a wonderful operating system for navigating everything we are, whether it's our physical body, emotions, our mind, our heart, our sense of truth, our sense of intuition and insight, and our spirituality. So I think we're a circuit. I really do think we're a spectrum. More than mind, body, and spirit, I see us as a rainbow.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Elise, you want to jump in?
Yes. And tell me what the question was again. It was mind, body, spirit. ...
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I find that as humans, we're human, and our minds do kind of need to reduce things. I mean, maybe that's the connection of science. There's that mystery, and then there's the science. So we divide things. I mean, a lot of times I'll start my yoga classes with something to root us, and I'll have people put their hands on their belly and just visualize going down, letting go, releasing, and then they go up and they put their hand on their heart. We can't put everything in those 2 buckets, the down and the up, but we need to do something, because we show up in the world and maybe we have all these swirling problems and pain, we might call them pain points, like, oh my gosh, I'm late on my rent, or I need to take my dog for a walk, but I've been on Zoom for 6 hours. And then I've got to go to yoga. So we want to calm that down. And so how do we work with all these different things? And the ancient yogis had this system. It was a system of the chakras. And just like we have in our computers, we have different files and we put everything in little buckets. That's what it was all about. Not that the chakras, I would say they don't exist. You're not going to find them. I mean, maybe someday we'll have some kind of thing that finds something similar, but yeah, they're more of like, how do we visualize, what was the tree that we were visualizing when we were sitting? So I like to say that, because there are people that try to say, well, it's pseudoscience or something, but as Deanna said, it's a method. And so we're using that method. And that's what the ancient yogis did. They had more time on their hands to look at nature and observe and see the different qualities.
Thanks, Elise. Deanna, did you want to jump in?
Yeah, Elise, I really love what you said about the chakras, because I feel like that's our common thread, that we both resonate with that system. One of the things when I'm teaching now, especially to medical audiences, I do walk everybody through the chakras, but I don't call them chakras. I actually talk about the endocrine system. I talk about the adrenals. I talk about the reproductive organs. I talk about the pancreas, the heart as a neuroendocrine gland, the thyroid, the pituitary gland, and also the hypothalamus pineal. So I do think that in Western terms, the chakras are actually these psychoneuroendocrine glands, which is like a circuit within us. And there's all kinds of, I would say, modalities that we can do with food, with the different mind-body therapies that are described in the complete handbook of quantum healing to really bring that into balance. Because if our hormones are not aligned, our thyroid hormone is off, then our metabolism is off, then our insulin is off, our digestion is off. So I do think that hormones in the endocrine system provide the basis for our everyday framework. And some people kind of lament their hormones. They're like, oh my gosh, my moods, my sleep, my eating, my appetite. And it's like, to me, those are indicators of deeper what's going on within those chakras as kind of like the messenger or the alerts that the body is sending out.
Elise, I see you nodding your head. You want to say a little more too?
Oh, I really like that tie in with the endocrine system. I think it's a great way to look at the chakras. And also, I guess I also think the classical texts are like, they're so visual too. And I know that Dr. Deanna is an artist. So I think and there's layers too. There's the koshas, the sheaths. So I just love hearing different approaches because it all resonates. And what I love about the chakras is it's the subtle, and that's what's it's not, I want to say valued. It's not valued as much in our society. And I had a good discussion with my son last night because he's actually a physicist and he studied quantum computing. So we had a fun discussion about physics. And I think that's why, I don't even know where. I would love to hear Dr. Deanna's.
Just call me Deanna, by the way. Deanna Banana is what my dad calls me.
Banana. Yeah. I also said to my son, how would you explain quantum computing to a 5-year-old? And he said, don't worry about it. So it's just a joke. But anyway, I think that now I've lost what I was going to say.
You were mentioning the subtle, which I think makes a lot of sense.
Subtle,
right?
That's what it was. The subtle is where this like connection to the quantum and the science is, because quantum physics, we've discovered there's all these unpredictable things. We can't predict if something is a particle or a wave, and you don't need to know, just like the thing, never mind, but physics was created so we could figure out exactly how everything works. We find out all these like linear systems on the deepest level, on the most subtle level, do not apply. It doesn't work like the way that we can pick up our cell phone and pick up a book. It's a different field. So,
yeah. Sherry, can I just tag on to what Elise said about physics? Because I love that. And I feel like that the future of medicine is actually physics. It is light. We're looking at how surgeries are done with lasers, with light. My husband is an acupuncturist, and he even uses a laser for some people where they don't want needles. And when I think of light, I think of, we're learning so much about blue light, melatonin. We're learning about light as wavelengths, so colors, and how different colors change our psychology. Elise, you mentioned that, I like to paint. Part of my healing journey involved me painting. Like, there are realms of ourselves that we need to access, and sometimes that can't be done with a dietary supplement or with talk therapy. It's like we've got to get into that deep space, and sometimes that's a nonverbal somatic, kind of like a body visceral space where we go into our lineage, we go into our ancestors, we go into traumas that are felt either from ourselves or through our line. So one of the things I talk about a lot, one of my books is called The Rainbow Diet, because I am bringing forth looking at color and how when we eat, it's an act of physics. It's an act of breaking apart those bonds of color to get energy. And actually, that's with every meal, that's what we're doing. We're breaking the bonds in a plant through that photosynthesis that occurred, and then we're getting energy in that process, and it's all color. So I think, that's something very inspiring for me, is to look at healing as an art as it relates to color. And we could say on the science side that could be physics.
Wow.
So son is studying that, Elise. That's very cool.
I
So
love
the future.
I love this already. I love already all the different places that the two of you have gone. And I'm gonna turn us over for just a quick minute to Brenda, because Brenda's always got something, another angle to bring in. And Brenda, you want to jump in and tell us, like, did you know this about these two, that this is what they were going to be bringing?
Oh, I'm not surprised at all. And like, yeah, I love that, going along for the ride. And I would love to hear their thoughts on the physics of consciousness, because like, I know just enough about it to be dangerous, but I have a lot of I imagine this is true for everyone here today, that you have a lot of synchronicities and coincidences and things that happen that are like sort of wonderful, and I know that, the belief is that like, that's a sign that you're on the right path. But I've had some really like astounding coincidences in my day, and I like would share them with authors, on occasion. And Donna Markova, whom we all know and love from Heart Wisdom, said that like, I'm a strange attractor. And I was like, it sounded kind of insulting. And I was like, okay. I'm like, okay, what does that mean? And she said, it's from the physics of consciousness that you draw things toward you. It's like it's sort of like the science of manifestation. Again, like I said, I know like just a smidge, but I would love to hear more, because I know that, Elise, in addition to all her other things, is like, she's super psychic, which I think, so, how do you take psychism and then Dr. Deanna's, science, medical science and intuitive healing, and conjoin those like that, that seems where they're going to go next.
I can answer. I think that's very interesting, because I like both. I think it's just like the layers. We have that layer of intuitive, call it psychic, call it the subtle. We all have that developed in different ways, and it comes up in different moments. And just like with our endocrine system, different endocrine, we're going to be releasing different hormones in different moments. And I think we're coming to a time when there's such an explosion of information that we need, we need our intuition to process that. If we're not in touch with that deep level, and I'm tapping my heart, especially in our heart, then we're not going to be able, we have to know what is going to work for us. I think the future is also precision medicine, gearing it to our individual selves. And I think that using your intuition right now is really important. I think it's going to become more important, because there's just so much information. Quantum computing is going to exponentially increase the amount of information that's processed, that's put out there. And so just like when we started with cell phones, we didn't know how things were going to change, but look how we have little computers in our hands, and how much we can sit around a table and talk about, remember that show, Leave It to Beaver or something. And the younger kids are like, what are you talking about? And you just pull it up and show them, instead of having to describe it. We have this incredible power. And I think that's going to push us to grow on the subtle level as well. So I hope that made sense.
Yeah. Deanna, you want to jump in?
Yeah, I'd love to. I feel like consciousness is such a buzzword these days. It's become like, I was just watching a series, and this company, like, I think it was, it was a WeWork series on Apple TV, and they were talking about how their company mission is to elevate world consciousness, right? Like this is becoming the bedrock of so many different companies and so many different initiatives out there. And I often question those words, like, what do they really mean? What does a company mean? Like, WeWork or, whoever else, when we start talking about consciousness, what does that mean? Because some people might say, well, aren't we conscious? Like, aren't we walking around like we're physically conscious? We couldn't have a conversation if we weren't conscious. So I do think that there is a layered approach to consciousness. And I just like the word mindfulness. I think that there's a lot of room for interpretation. The way that I see it is alignment. So when it starts with us, right? So like if we are aligned, again, back to our inner circuit where we are aligned with our body, our emotions, our mind, our spirit, and everything's kind of synced up. I think to what Brenda was saying, we start having those moments of synchronicity because we're aligned. And then like the energy flows, the energy is attracting to you because you're in that state of alignment, which is like the superpower of, it's like you're a superconductor. You've got these plus and minus charges, and you're really becoming much more, I think, attractive in the day to day. And when I say attractive, it's not how we look, it's how we feel and how we bring in things. So when I think of consciousness, I think of alignment. So like having consciousness on the planet with regenerative agriculture, being conscious of what we do to the planet and how that impacts us, that awareness, that alignment, so that all of our choices that we are making, once we've established the alignment on the inside, now we start to look on the outside and we start to see that every choice we make is significant, and how that further changes our attractiveness within the world that we're living in, right? Like we start to supercharge ourselves with those individual choices. So I think it's so interesting to see what is trending and what is bubbling up, and I think we need to be disruptive about words in our society because words have a lot of power. I even think of the word like anti-aging. I think of anti-anything, what kind of energy does that bring out? So I'm a little bit of a disruptor scientist person in the way of like, even the word stress. I think we need to disrupt the word stress. We need a little bit of healthy stress. If we didn't have stress, we wouldn't be out of bed in the morning. So thank goodness for cortisol, right? So I think that it's about the alignment of how we use the medicine of stress. How do we use the medicine of longevity? All of those things. So I think it's really important that we question those things through our truth system, through our current eyes, and constantly reevaluate those things like we're on a spiral.
Oh, I love that. And I especially really love what you were saying about every single choice we make. I love that kind of, talk about the subtlety, right? But how, when you talked about us as being conductors of energy, like that's, it's so exciting. Right. And to me, that's where I too am not a fan of the anti-aging. I'm excited to age, right? Like I'm excited to grow and change and evolve. And so what I want to know from you both, because I think we're right at this point of like, so what does this have to do with healing and health? This whole conversation, where are we going with that piece?
I think the alignment, I just want to underline alignment, because when I work with people in their health, whether it's in a yoga class or coaching them, that is the number one thing I find. And often it's the really sensitive people that are suffering more. And I think we can either be a sponge if we're super sensitive. And I'm guessing everybody on the mango panel is going to be more sensitive because, hey, other people are out there just barreling through. But the sensitive ones are absorbing more. They're absorbing for others. They're healers, they're givers, they're caretakers. They have animals. We were talking about, they have a lot of pets and stuff that they're taking care of. And they can get thrown out of alignment by all the things that they do. So sometimes with people I work with, I find just, they might have a serious health condition, but sometimes I'll be like, let yourself be addicted to whatever it is you're addicted to right now. I just think you need to be really kind to yourself, really loving to yourself, because they have some kind of internalized pattern where they're, something, I don't know, could be from childhood where they're not accepting themselves. So on that level, the quantum can just be some way to give yourself self-love. No, we can't be abstract. I'm totally with you on like, examine those words, but I'll give them a practice. Maybe put your hand on your heart and take 3 deep breaths and do a visualization or breathe in love, but something simple that you're going to do with your mind, and not abstract, not like, oh, I love myself. I mean, you have to make it real, because I can say, I love myself. I love myself. Maybe that'll help a little, but if I really get quiet and I maybe sit by a tree and do a visualization like the visualization we did, that's going to be very powerful. If I do that every day, I think that's going to have a huge effect on my health. And many people simply need to do that. Not that they don't need all the other, they might need supplements, acupuncture, all those are going to help, but it's like the fertile soil. If they don't have that soil, that is that deeper, subtle level. And that to me is the quantum, if I was going to say quantum. And also my son really doesn't like it when, speaking of disruptors, it's like quantum healing. They don't know, they didn't do the math, they didn't go to 4 years doing physics. And so I respect that too. It's like, yeah, okay. He did the math. I was always saying, why are you studying that? It's too hard. Don't do that. He loves it. People, we're all different. We all love different things.
Yeah.
Thank you, Elise. Yeah, Deanna, you want to add to that? Like,
Sure. I love everything Elise said. And, we definitely coincide also on this alignment theme. And, I think one of the things that I wrestled with in my health journey is perfection. Realizing that it's not so much that we can avoid stress or we can avoid aging or that we can avoid, I don't know, our day-to-day tribulations, but there is a sense of like bouncing back, like getting back quickly from that event, getting back into alignment. And that's why in my quantum healing book, these are all modalities to get you back. Like Elise, what you were talking about, breath, whatever it is to get you back. And sometimes, one of the ways that I got into painting, and I paint just abstract, colorful art, I began to see people as colors. Like when I was going through my deepest, darkest time, like color became medicine for me. So my bounce backer is color. My bounce backer is art. Like I have to express in some way, right? So for me, that's just what I do. But for some other people, it's like, oh, they got to get out in nature. They got to have to go for like a 15-minute walk and they have to smell the air, listen to the birds. They got to bounce back. So it's never that we're never going to be angry again or sad or have grief or have losses or have any number of stresses on a day-to-day level, but it's how quickly, and in science, this is called resilience. This is how quickly you bounce back like bubble gum, right? So it's like, you're always going to have stuff happening for you, but what is your bounce back mechanism? And day to day, that bounce back mechanism can be different. It might be an affirmation one day. You might have many different bounce back mechanisms in a day. It could be food, not to discount nutrition, because that's really like the underpinning of where I have spent most of my career. It could be a visualization. It could be being with pets. I was telling the ladies before we signed on, like one of my modalities, one of my bounce back mechanisms is to watch a cat video. Like I'm a huge cat lover. And so like, I'll just watch a funny cat video. I did it this morning as I woke up and I was laughing to myself watching this ridiculous cat video, but it helps me to bounce back. It's like, okay, I'm back. All right. Like I'm feeling that alignment again. And it doesn't have to take much. It could be something simple.
Sorry, I love that, I just wrote that down in big letters, bounce back mechanism, like that, to have a running list for ourselves, like what are those, so that like when I'm caught up in stress or anger or upset or whatever, that I could, quickly look at the list and whatever resonates in the moment, and so I love that. I love just giving it a name like that for all of us.
Yeah. And even as I was listening to everybody checking in as we were starting, thinking of the turkeys, why did you see a turkey? What kind of medicine does the turkey bring into your life? Or the eagle? why the eagle? You know, I studied with a shamanic teacher, and all animals, everything has significance. There is nothing in life that is insignificant. So everything has not just literal medicine, but symbolic medicine. There's even what has been coined symbolic disease. Like, what is heart disease really? Is it really just blockage of the arteries, or is it feeling stuck, stagnant, blocked, shut down? Right. So there are many different levels to really read that. So it's within our environment. And I love that people were bringing up animals, because there's such great healing, and even using that as a bounce back mechanism. Like, okay, when I see the turkey, what do I feel? Like, what is that turkey bringing to my attention? An eagle, you know, I know is like the great spirit, right? It's a very, you know, every animal is wonderful, but I just happen to know a little bit about significance of the eagle, but everybody has their own take on what animals mean for them.
You know, I love that. There were some of you who are here, weren't here before we start the recordings. We always do a little fun thing where we talk about beautiful things we've seen or experienced. And that's what Deanna is referring to. And you're helping me to see that in a whole new light, right? Like, so that's not actually just a casual thing. Oh, what did we see beautiful, right? So I think if I'm hearing you correctly, we could really look at whatever that was that caught each of our attention as medicine, right? Mm-hmm. You know, if it's the cherry blossom tree, or if it's the turkeys or the eagles, or the, you know, walking by the water, or our children, or whatever it is that makes us feel beauty.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, I'll just quickly say this, and then Elise, yeah, definitely divert over to you. But, you know, even 1 minute experiences of awe, you know, as you talk about beauty, there's even science to suggest that if we hold ourselves in awe for a minute, we change our neurochemistry for hours. So just to leave everybody with that.
Yeah, Elise, were you going to jump in?
Oh, I'm just nodding my head and thinking about, yeah, I think also with most people, they like to have that's why our books are so great, because we have practices in them. Because if one of us, Deanna or I, say, oh, just have an awe practice, some people just go, what? And they don't have that much experience. And not everybody has been to a yoga class, or especially working with older adults. There wasn't a yoga studio on every corner back in the day. So giving concrete practices and having, I love the quantum healing concept, because we need a variety. And that's what I also did in Super Ager. There's just so many things that we can do. And most of them, they're either free or cost very little. They just need to be explained and practiced. Some things, we can do it once, like you said, and it'll feel great for hours. And then sometimes it builds over time as well. And most of the practices, they build over time. The more we visualize, the more we go, I love doing that, especially once it gets easier. A lot of things we have to practice. And I'll just say one more thing about the practice, because I know Thea's here, and we will study with a teacher who tells us that relaxation is a practice, and we don't learn that in school. We are in such a high strung, hyper, do, and we're not taught, at least when I went to school, we weren't taught to relax. Now they're teaching more yoga in the schools, and I used to teach kids yoga, and we're teaching, we know that we need that, but I still think we need even more.
That's reminding me one of my favorite lines from a poem, and I'm blanking on the poet right now, but it's, sunshine is also a thing that needs accomplishing. And I love that line, and he talks about putting it on your to-do list, sunshine. And that's relaxation, reminds me of that. Mm-hmm. I was just wondering if anybody who's here, I mean, we've covered so much territory, and we have these two wonderful experts here. Does anybody have a question or a comment or something you'd like to turn the conversation toward? Yeah, Thea, you just need to, yeah, there you go.
Yeah, being an elder here, I'm 80 years old, and I feel like everything we've been talking about, I've had phases in my life that I've done, and I've watched Michio Kaku, but I also want to thank Elise for the book Super Aging, and I will have to get the other one by Dr. Deanna. there are things in it that reminded me of stuff that I used to do that I'm not doing right now. Like I just ordered Tulsi tea, which I used to drink and I totally forgot about it. Oh, there you go. And I particularly liked what you said about changing your habits, because I do have a habit of staying up late. And so I loved what you said, go at it slowly. So I've been doing that, and that's been very helpful. And I think that's true of any of the, the food, the sleep, the exercise, to go at it slowly. And I really like that part of what you said in super aging. I also wanted to say that one of the things that has helped me in the last couple of years, my husband passed away in 2019 after about 58 years of marriage. So I had a lot of, still have a lot of adjusting to do, but when the last couple of years, he was in a memory care unit at near my house, and I started writing poetry and sharing the poems with the support group that I was in, and people would go, "Oh my God, that's it," and how words really they express something that needed to come from the inside out. And so I so appreciated that I could share those words with somebody. And I eventually, during shelter, my daughter helped me put together some of my poems. So you can Google Thea Maestri on Amazon and you'll get my poetry book. But I had one that I wanted to share with you today, which is not mine, but it's Carl Sandburg. And if you don't mind, I'll read it. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Sure, go ahead, Thea.
I think see if I can find it on my, It's called Little Girl, Be Careful What You Say. Little girl, be careful what you say when you make talk with words. For words are made of syllables, and syllables, child, are made of air. And air is so thin. Air is the breath of God. Air is finer than fire or mist, finer than water or moonlight, finer than spider webs in the moon, finer than water flowers in the morning. And words are strong too, stronger than rocks or steel, stronger than potatoes, corn, fish, cattle, and soft too. Soft as little pigeon eggs, soft as the music of hummingbird wings. So little girl, when you speak greetings, when you tell jokes, when you make wishes or prayers, be careful, be careless, be careful, be what you wish to be. And I just love that poem. It just.
Thank you, Thea. Thank you. And might I just add, someone mentioned some, vitality, and I just too, I really feel your vitality. So thank you for being that vitality here. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Did anybody else want to jump in with a question or a comment or something that struck you? Yeah, Linda.
First, Elise, I'm so sorry, but when you first held up your new book that's coming out, I could have sworn you said chocolate tonics. And I was like, yeah, I'm on board with that. So you could do that too, and that would be all right. I just wanted to go back to the mind, body, spirit thing. The thing that always bothers me about that is that no one ever includes heart. And I think it's so important. And that's my constant focus. So I talk about it too much, but I really think that heart should be included in that alignment.
I love that point. And, again, my husband is an acupuncturist. And one of the things in traditional Chinese medicine is that the heart holds the spirit or the consciousness of a person. So whenever I do think by body, mind, spirit, my mind does want to bring in the heart as well. And I think, oh yeah, that's the spirit. That's like our life force. But it's significant, right? I mean, it needs to be acknowledged.
I love that. We're all going to be more mindful now, right? Back to being mindful of our words. Concha, did you want to jump in?
I I did. In some of the research I've done on centenarians and folks who are, who live a long life, is that ritual played a very strong energy in their being, and a ritual being, one woman talked about just having a shot of brandy at night. Another one talked about smoking, which, you thought, oh God, you're 100. But she, she swore, this was something that was important to her. But in my life, I think one of the rituals that is very, very important for me is prayer. And I know some people talk about, doing it in the morning or doing it, a certain time of the day. And I don't have, a very strict ritual that way for myself, but I have, prayer is a very strong foundation in my mind, body, spirit connection, if you will. And it is just really very essential and fundamental. And I know when I do Qigong or Tai Chi or yoga, all of those, for me, have that sense of dance, if you will, which is also very important in my life, that has that open of, excuse me, that way of opening up, all of me that is alive in its own way. So, it's just wanted to share that because I know that in whatever form, we do it, or it does not necessarily have to be religious based, but in some form, whatever prayer means to us in our lives, I think is a very important ritual.
Thank you, Concha. I love that. Thank you. Loretta, I see you're unmuted. Were you going to jump in?
Yeah. Again, there are two things. One, I love the connection with the chakras, with the endocrine systems and the different parts of our body, because that's the first time I've ever heard that connection. And not only that I have all those issues myself. Oh God, my phone, I'm so sorry. But that was really interesting. And I'm going to look into those connections more.
Sorry,
and I'm a nurse. I'm going to be 75 very soon. So I've been a nurse a really long time. But the part of with the heart, and whenever we had anybody that had a heart transplant, it's really going in, and if they allow to with them or work with them, and and who it is, and then once it's there, pray like that heart to be home. And so I really appreciated that, and so thank you. And I was a parish nurse, so body, mind, and spirit was in all my pamphlets. So I appreciate that you brought in the heart, because it is really an important part. Thank you.
Oh, I love that, Loretta. I'm sorry, you were coming in and out a little bit. I'm not sure. Deanna and Elise, did you catch what she was saying about the heart transplant?
About it needing to find a home. It's almost like,
well,
that was what I,
when you're working with the patient before that, like working with their body to accept the new heart and have it let it find a new home and be accepting. And because it does have spirit and love in it. And once it's there, to really pray with the heart to be at home. So it's those two things.
Thank
you.
Thank you. Oh, thank you, Loretta. We have just a few minutes left. That was so wonderful to hear from so many of you who are here. I appreciate that. I'm going to hand it back over, either Deanna or Elise, whichever one of you wants to jump in with whatever is coming up for you right now around all of this.
Oh, Oh, well, I could say a little bit about, I think there is something that, without blaming anyone for any kind of disease or, sometimes it comes from patterns of imbalance, a disease or a condition that we have, and it might even come from a different lifetime. But I think many people, including my mom, she always observed, she was a judge. And there's something when you come in contact with asbestos, you can get many different conditions. And she would notice she was an expert in asbestos cases because some of them are really gnarly because you might have been exposed to asbestos in a variety of ways. And she would notice there was emotional patterns with the different diseases that people got, whether it was a certain kind of cancer. And, so I think that there is really something to it. And I think that's going to be teased out in all this future medicine and what we're learning, where things can become more personalized. And it also speaks to the chakras because the more we know where we have our imbalances, where we have deficiencies, and we use our intuition, we use the practitioners, we can strengthen ourselves because each one of us here on this, like Hollywood Squares, we're all individuals. We're coming together and we're creating a new energy together. So much, I just love this panel. I got so much out of it. And we're going to take that out and we're going to take in what we need to take in. So I just encourage everyone to use all the books and resources to individualize the medicine, the quantum healing. That's where it begins for me. And the alignment, that's for me, the alignment with your true nature.
Beautifully said. Yeah, I have two things. One is, as I was listening to some of you that were chiming in, one of the things that came to me was the power of words. And when I think of the power of words, whether it's what connects to the heart or prayers or poems, and the power of, even within my environment, I have affirmation cards all over the house. I have them in the kitchen. I have them in the bathroom. I have them on my desk here. The power of words. And I really like that Thea, it came to me as she was reading the Carl Sandburg poem. She's wearing this aquamarine. I often look at color, like what are people wearing? What are people vibing to? And I do think that color, this is my second point, that color is an important healing force going forward, whether it's physics or it's eye candy or it's beauty or it's awe. The colors we wear, the colors we surround ourselves in. For many years, I could not wear pink or orange. I was like a black, navy blue, beige, make it simple. I was traveling, I was busy. I didn't want to really feel out what I was wearing every day. However, I do think much like breakfast, it starts with that. What are the colors? We open our eyes. What are we exposing our eyes to? What colors, what vibrations are we taking in? And yes, today I'm wearing pink. Isn't that something? And most of my paintings now are pink and orange, which is absolutely crazy. It was almost like the medicine from the pink and orange I needed because I had such a deficiency, like a nutrient. So pay attention to the colors that you wear, that you're surrounding yourself in, or, just in some way have glasses, even colored glasses, to allow yourself to see in a different way. Sometimes that's all we need, is just to disrupt our own environment to help us to reset and come back into that alignment. So thank you. Thank you for having me here and having this discussion. It's been really enriching and nourishing.
For both of you, Deanna and Elise and Brenda and everyone who's here today, I feel like we could go on for hours. Like there's so many just like doorways I wanted to open, but this was so wonderful and thought-provoking. And thank you all. I say this over and over again, and I mean it. It really matters. You're being here. I mean, talk about beauty, right? Just like looking around at each of you. And for those of you who shared, even those of you who didn't speak, we see you, and it makes such a big difference. So thank you all, and go and really pay attention. What sparks you, like Deanna was saying, or Elise, like look through their books and like just what jumps out at you and follow it. So we're here every Wednesday. Hope to see you again. Have a beautiful week.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you.